Hey guys, I am Ibigandscary. I'm bringing you another StarCraft 2 replay, this time featuring in our top left-hand side BtNEITurri. Turri, our red Terran, and in our bottom right we have Dosenfett, our blue Protoss. Both players are in Diamond. This is on the ladder, I think. Alkaline Wastes is a relatively new map. I'm not 100% sure if it's actually in the ladder pool or not. I can't remember a game I've played on it. Doesn't matter though. It's a very well-known map, Alkaline Waste. It's kind of one of the new not pro replay map style things. It's got a lot of gimmicks in it. The third is kind of cut off because of these destructible debris, but then unlike most of the maps, you do have to walk quite a huge way around it. It's very much exposed. It very much favors 2-base play over the 3-base traditional. I don't know, it's an odd kind of map, and it definitely requires you to kind of transition away from that. And actually, Turri's showing us exactly why. He's throwing down that first supply depot away from the traditional ramp. He does not worrying too much about that scouting. Dosenfett's already moving out with that first probe. Even if that supply depot was positioned right by the map, I don't think he'd be able to deny the scout coming out of Dosenfett, and he's really not going to see much. I mean, we're not even at the 2-minute mark. He's seen a very early gas timing, so hey, maybe coming in, seeing that super early gas timing definitely tells you that there's going to be a high level of tech coming out of Turri. It tells you that he's not really worried too much about getting up a large number of SCVs, getting up an economic advantage. Seeing the barracks being thrown down too, this could be a Reaper rush is exactly what I'd be preparing for. But against Protoss, there's not much you have to worry about. You just get out that first Stalker a little bit faster. You bypass maybe the Sentry. He's getting up his first gas. He's getting up his first gateway. There's not a crazy amount. Okay, so this is exactly what you're looking for. That SCV going off to the far side, throwing out a barracks of all things. So it is going to be some sort of Reaper harass. Keep an eye out on that add-on for the barracks. I think that probe really should turn around and stick around until the barracks gets completed to see exactly what add-on gets thrown down, because it's definitely within the realm of possibility that we're going to see a reactor being thrown down on that barracks instead, and then it would be an early expansion, or at least that's what I'd think of if I hadn't scouted the barracks in the top right side. Obviously we know it's going to be cheese, and we know that Dosenfett's going to be in for a world of hurt in a couple of seconds, and he's very wisely positioning his probe up onto the top right side. But once he gets in here and sees that barracks hasn't completed any add-on at all, he's going to know that there's going to be some cheese. You really have to throw down something that requires gas to complete this. Okay, there goes the tech lab. Absolutely fantastic. Very smart. Also, the tech lab being added onto the other barracks as that first SCV moves in and is going to be scouting out a very nice and delicate Protoss main base. Gateway is chrono boosting out that first Stalker, so I think Dosenfett does suspect some sort of cheese. He's getting that second gas also. We don't see a forge. We don't see any photon cannons or anything like that. No overreaction. Just getting out that first Stalker. Oh, and it's a proxy. Of course it's a proxy Marauder. Of course it's a proxy Marauder. And he's actually rallying the Marauder back at home. I've seen this build so many times, and it's always incredibly effective. I wonder, did he scout it? No, he did not. Okay, so that first Marauder's actually turning around right now. It's going to get scouted by that probe, but don't let this fool you. This is actually an incredibly intimidating push, even if it's scouted. I've seen this scouted. It was done by Angry Kittens. It was scouted within like 15, maybe 20 seconds of it starting, and Angry Kittens still beat house. He completely negated the expansion because the Protoss at that time was going for a rather early expansion. Looks like that probe does get taken down as that second Marauder finishes. We have 2 more Marauders on the way. Of course, the Tech Lab back at home is producing the Marauders too. Oh man, this is going to be an incredibly intimidating push, especially with that SCV in tow. Will there be a force field on the ramp? Absolutely. But will that be enough to hold back this intimidating push from Turri? He's taken 1 or 2 shots from that SCV, but these Marauders are so very bulky that as soon as that force field expels itself, these Marauders are going to push up here, and this is going to be bad news for Dosenfett. He's immediately targeting down the pylon, hoping to supply block Protoss, but it doesn't. He still has 2 more Protoss. He's got 2 more supply. He's got an Immortal on the way, just now popping actually, and this could be the absolute game winner. Will this Immortal survive? Will it get targeted down completely? The pylon falls, but 2 more are on the way. Oh, that Immortal taking so much damage, getting surrounded by those SCVs, goes down. Oh, but it only succeeds in taking down a single Immortal. All of the probes are getting pulled right now before the barrack bunker is done. One of the Immortals falls, the second one falls, Marauders falls, and it looks like oh no, the Marauder succeeds in getting inside, but the second one can't get into the bunker just yet. It can't because of the surround of all those probes. Finally, nice control there by Turri to snipe out one of those probes that had surrounded the bunker. But now what choice does Turri have? He's got to stand and fight. He's doing so much economic damage though. 17 over 21. Dosenfett has lost quite a lot to this pressure. It looks like the second Immortal now fully surrounded by the whole position from those probes. Now that a second Immortal's out on the field, I think finally Turri is going to have to call it quits and pull back. But man, he's done so much damage. 1500 over 1000. For the resources lost tab, definitely in the favor of Turri. He needs to call it quits right now, though. He needs to get up his own expansion. He is throwing down that CC. He's keeping his Marauders aggressively positioned, but if he tries to push up, he's going to lose everything. Nice control there by Dosenfett, force fielding, capturing one of those Immortals, taking it out, almost losing another Sentry, which would have been a pretty significant loss just because of the amount of energy that he needs to accumulate to hold that ramp if Turri decides to get ballsy. But no, Turri's going to retreat, very content in the fact that he's done quite a lot of economic damage. But man, Dosenfett has rebounded very quickly. It's back up to 22 Harvesters, but remember, a lot of that money that Turri hasn't spent on SCVs, he's now invested in a command center, and that command center is going to double up his own SCV production. He's going to be in a world better shape coming soon, very, very soon. Another refinery being added onto the mix for Turri. Two more barracks on the way, and that stim is being researched on the tech lab. This is excellent transition out of it. This is exactly how it's supposed to go. As you go in, you do some damage, and you pull back. It's not supposed to be a game ender. It's just supposed to be a game winner. It's supposed to set you up for a heavy economic lead into the mid game, which is when you do want to win the game. The next big push that's coming out of Turri will be one that is a heavy bio push. It's going to have stim. It's going to have combat shields, probably +1. And it's going to be incredibly intimidating just because of the sheer amount of Marauders that are going to be added on the mix. Will he wait for Starport? Will he wait for that first round of medevacs? Only time will tell. I'm sure Turri knows this build far better than me. Dosenfett is moving out with just a handful of sentries, feeling very aggressive and ballsy. Is he going to be poking at the third just to see if that third has been taken? Or will he be poking up at the front door? And if he does, man, stim is almost done. And if stim is done, Marauder slow is done. One of these Immortals are in for a world of hurt. There goes the pylon being positioned, but man, two bunkers up on the high ground. This is an impenetrable fortress, and we can see how slow that Immortal moves after it gets slowed, and just so many Marauders are currently out on the scene. Ugh, man, it's crazy. So many. Right now, Dosenfett's going to be having to rely on force fields over anything else, not positioning, because you really can't afford to be too ballsy with this. The Immortals poking at the front door, trying to get off a couple of pot shots at the barracks, but quickly pushed back by those Immortals. On the other side of things, the natural has now been taken by Dosenfett. He's going to be working on getting back into this economic game, but 29 of 26, this is what I was talking about. Turri has finished his expo. He's beginning to work on that, and check out that economic tab. Check out all those extra minerals coming in, and those extra minerals are going to be a lot of Marines. Now that he's freed up some breathing room, he can work on that tech. Stim is done. Combat shields soon to be done, and he's his factory's done. He's working on that starport with the reactor being added on right on top of the starport, I'm sure. Okay, so there's your reactor, there's your starport. So those are going to be some fantastic medevacs. In all honesty, Turri can just sit back, relax until that tech finishes, and then poke at the front door with a very small force and drop at the back, and he will instant win this, because this is the only mineral patch currently being mined by Dosenfett. He's just now getting up this saturation up at his natural, but it's not enough. He needs to play this very, very smart. He needs to shut down the coming push from Turri, and right now the ball is very much in Turri's pocket. Colossus tech is now done. Dosenfett's going for a very high-tech build. We'll be working on that extended thermal lance. He doesn't have either the gas or the money just yet. Desperately trying to stay abreast of the probe count that he needs. He does have one Colossus on the way, though, freeing up enough minerals, just finding it here and there in the corners of the bed sheets, basically how desperate he is for money right now. Third CC being thrown down by Turri, as he just showing how dominating he's going to be early on. The probe is, that pylon is still comically alive just because of how many Marauders are currently out on the field. there goes Extended Thermal Lance. So, man, Dosenfett, if he can survive for as long as it takes for him to get out Extended Thermal Lance, eventually he's going to have enough money to throw down a bunch of Zealots and a couple of Immortals. And then with that Colossus tech, we'll be able to chew through all of these Marines. Really, it's going to come down to how beefy can Marauders be. Can he keep up with the Marauder production? Can they be supported by enough medevacs? Unit positioning, all these things will come to a head if Dosenfett can survive for long enough. Really, Turri's just kind of, he's waiting too long, in my opinion. He should have loaded up these 2 medevacs. He should have been more aggressive with this push he's got right now. And I feel like the lead that he had is beginning to slip through his grasp. Yeah, he's taking that 3rd, and that's going to be absolutely fantastic for him. And that 3rd is definitely going to keep him ahead in this game. But the longer he waits, the more time Dosenfett's going to have to get up a money-winning composition, and that can be pretty bad. Engineering Bay block being constructed at the 3rd, but that's not going to stop a Colossus with a handful of Immortals in tow for very long. This is definitely going to stop them, though. So this heavy bio ball pushing out, and they're fully upgraded too. I mean, they've got the combat shield, they've got the stem, they've got medevacs in tow, and this is going to be an intimidating force just because it's a single Colossus. Second one is going to be tapping out just a couple of seconds, and remember, these sentries have been out for a very long time. They've got plenty of force fields, but these force fields absolutely have to be money. There goes the stem. Nice force fields right there, cutting them into manageable chunks, but enough Marauders make it through to reduce one of the Colossus down to 36 health. Extended Thermal Lance is done, and they are really chewing away at the force. Supply count is pretty much neck and neck. Definitely came out a winner for that for Dosenfett. Excellent force fields right there, but that can show you just how fast that whole thing happened. 1 second, and those force fields weren't down. This force would have chewed alive that Colossus, and with one of those Colossus down, then he could afford to pull back and know that he's bought himself a little bit more time. 3rd Colossus is going to be tapping out at a blink on the way too. My goodness, Dosenfett is investing so much into tech. He really doesn't have a meat shield to protect this. What he does have is a bunch of force fields, and those force fields will run out of energy eventually. Those sentries are going to be pretty much useless if Turri decides to get super balls and continue to push. Every time he pushes in, he's only losing about 10% of his force. Oh, being really reckless with those medevacs, taking a little bit of damage from the photon cannon. If this force had been a little bit more aggressively positioned, that medevac could have gone down, and that medevac would have been a significant loss just because it represents a great deal of harassment potential. Turri pushing in, this time on a much more open area, but man, 3 Colossus, another money Colossus. Force field trap for those Colossus just to chew alive all of Turri's force. Now Turri has to retreat with just a significant portion of his force completely chewed alive. Another form of AoE on the way. Templar Archive, and this meat shield is beginning to get incredibly intimidating. We do have the Stalkers almost with Blink, and that force is beginning to get much larger, and man, I can't believe this, but Dosenfett is definitely back in this game. He's played this absolutely fantastically. I feel like Turri had this in the bag. His aggression early on was just spot on, and because maybe he was just surprised. He's like a dog that caught a car. He doesn't know what to do with it, to quote the Joker, and now he doesn't quite know how to finish this game, and I think he let that lead slip away. Another Nexus being added on back at home for Dosenfett. He's taking that 3rd, but we can see the Planetary Fortress is already up at the 3rd for Turri, so he's definitely ahead in the economy, but I don't feel like he's doing enough to end the game. He wanted to end it before it got to the late game, and with that Templar Archive finishing with the Storm, probably gonna... is he only getting it for Archons? I wonder why he's not researching Storm just yet. Keep an eye out for that, because that Storm AoE can be absolutely fantastic, especially against the Bio Ball. Feedback from the Templars can crush medevacs, and then you throw down one of those 2 Storms just because, and then you morph them into Archons on the back of it. It can make an incredibly intimidating force, but maybe Dosenfett's just doing it so he can get rid of a little bit more gas, get out a couple more Archons, make a little bit more of an intimidating meat shield to protect his Colossus, which is what he's going to be relying on for AoE. Keep an eye out for that. I don't know. There goes Storm. Fantastic. Disregard. All those medevacs, all those Marauders, all those Marines are going to be dead if they decide to engage in the form that Turri's been engaging. He's got so much drop potential here. He needs to load up 2 or 3 of these medics. Take half those medevacs, load them purely for Marauders, position them right here, poke again at the 3rd, and then just drop all of your Marauders down into the bottom right-hand corner. Crush everything that is tech related right here. You just drop right here, take out the Templar Archive, the robotics facility, and the robotics bay, and you cripple Dosenfett for forever, for absolutely forever. Unfortunately, Turri he's being too passive. He hasn't taken a fourth, which is what he needs to do by now. He needs to massively build up his infrastructure, get to a point where it's a comical amount of not only bunkers, but barracks, but also starports. He needs to get out more Vikings. He's just more. As things are now, he's barely staying ahead on the mineral count. He's beginning to tank a lot of gas, but now he's 200 over 200, and he's not making motions like he wants to be aggressive. Turri just needs to be more aggressive. But don't worry, Dosenfett's going to bring the fight to you, even though he's not capped yet. He's still at 170 supply over the 200, but those 3 Colossus are going to be chewed alive by those Vikings if he decides to get too ballsy. And no, it looks like he's pulling back, content to take the map control, content to take both of those Xel'Naga watchtowers. At the same time, Turri taking a fourth. Absolutely fantastic. Good decision here, but I want to see more aggression out of Turri. I need him to start doing more damage. The force that he has right now needs to be replaced slightly by Ghosts so he can get out those EMPs, so he can combat those High Templars. He's dealing with a second tier tech. He's dealing with a mid-game composition, and he needs to start dealing with that late-game composition, because Dosenfett, he's got a late-game composition right now. He's got High Templars with Storm, Archons, and Colossus, and then a hefty meat shield, complete with a lot of sentries, 6 sentries that have been absorbing energy for an incredibly long period of time. And this is the sort of stuff that Dosenfett can get away with, is positioning his High Templars aggressively, because he knows there's no snipe on the field just yet. Another run by of Zealots, this time with charge, not going to change anything against that planetary fortress, going to get chewed alive. But Turri's being aggressive. He's taking that Xel'Naga watchtower, finally at the 22-minute mark, doing what he should have done 7 minutes ago, I think. But you know what? This is definitely not over. One misstep from Dosenfett. You saw how tight those force fields need to be. This could definitely swing Turri's way. Nice engagement there for Dosenfett. Doesn't bode well for him. There goes the storm down on all those Vikings. Those Vikings picking off the weak Colossus in one volley. The other one swinging again. Nice concave there by Turri. All those Colossus fall almost immediately from all those Vikings. The combined my goodness, how fast did Dosenfett lose all of his forces? Holy crap, running home with a tail between the legs. Those poor High Templars, they did everything right. They force fielded so much. Turri, now that he's got a fantastic lead, his force is pretty much in shambles, though. Very weak right now, especially the medevac taking a significant blow. I feel like he could have been more aggressive, though, especially poking up at the top right corner, just to see what sort of infrastructure Dosenfett has back at home. That could have been an all-in push. You just never know. You've got to push forward and be aggressive whenever you come out so far ahead after a fight like that. It was very, very well done by Turri. But once again, he's falling back, being aggressive, being turtley, which it can work, especially if you follow it up like this, getting up 7 more barracks. Fantastic. And finally with the Ghost Academy too, so he's going to have out those ghosts now that he saw those Archons, saw that those storms were doing quite a lot of damage, knows he needs to get out EMP, knows that he's going to have something to combat the in-game composition that Dosenfett is fielding. We saw that because those Vikings had such a field day with all those Colossus, that Dosenfett's not producing any more of those Colossus right now. The robotics bay is completely silent, completely relying on gateway tech, and he's got quite a lot of gateways back at home. So High Templars, Dark Templars, Archons, going to see a lot more sentries, I think, as well as those High Templars. And the next fight that we see is going to be very beautiful, because storms are incredibly powerful, and they're pretty colors. A lot of Immortals mixed in here. I don't see any Ghosts at all, but once again, Turri pushing out into the midfield. Those pylons are very nice positioned by Dosenfett, and either one of these bases can be very open to aggression. I guess the planetary fortress kind of negates any aggression that Dosenfett wants to do at that fourth. However, Turri, this unit composition could be a game-ending one, because we don't see any Colossus here just yet. There is a lot of AoE potential in the form of Archons and High Templars, but with a concave like this, it's difficult to land the storms necessary. There goes a couple of very nice storms. The stem from those Marauders, the Zealots charging forward. Oh man, another storm, but now the stutter step micro from those Marauders, another storm down on the ramp like that, doing so much damage. Where are the storms? Man, so many storms right down on top of this. and the Vikings forced to land because they're useless now that there's no Colossus. Every single one of those Marauders are just done. And the Vikings have gone and gotten completely crushed too. And look at this on the back of that. Now that Dosenfett has completely cut down all of the Vikings in the area, he's producing another Colossus. He's teching back up to that Colossus tech. It's very, very nice decision of him, knowing that that Viking count has been finished. And this is what Dosenfett's doing that Turri did not. He's continuing to be aggressive once you won a fight. He knows that he's got a money composition right now, something that Turri cannot deal with right now. And because of that, he's being aggressive. In all honesty, he's not going to be able to break down this front door. Look at how much Turri is reproduced right now, and I don't think he's going to be capable of dealing with that. He might be able to snipe down this planetary, though. There goes the charge from all of those zealots, getting a very nice surround on the planetary. And remember that those zealots, because they're surrounding the planetary, prevent the SCVs from surrounding the planetary and repairing it back up to full. Oh no! The High Templars so exposed on the right side. Couple of Stalkers drawing the aggro as the storms fall. But man, these Marauders are very, very fresh. And there's not as many medevacs as there needs to be out in the field right now. The Archons being a little too ballsy, taking quite a lot of damage from the concussion shell. But oh no, Colossus has arrived on scene. He's doing so much AoE damage. Turri stutter stepping for his life. However, he just can't produce enough Marauders. Dosenfett on the back of such fantastic aggression. The High Templar Arcana changing into an Archon on the left side. This is just rapidly snowballing out of control for Turri. Turri, you did so well on that early aggression. You did such a fantastic job of keeping Protoss contained and doing a great amount of damage every time you fought, but you just didn't want to fight. You didn't want to push out and do the damage necessary once you won a very large battle in the middle of the map. You didn't want to push out and capitalize on that aggression. You didn't want to use the inherent benefits of having a heavy bio build, which is that high mobility, that high drop potential. You need to capitalize on that whenever you have a bio ball like that. One or two medevacs filled with Marines, one or two medevacs filled with Marauders dropped in a base can absolutely devastate any infrastructure that Dosenfett has left behind. And as a result, I mean, you've lost some gas, you've lost a significant amount of infrastructure, and you've also lost the gate to your main, and that's going to make you feel very exposed. Finally, Turri falling back on the drop, but no, choosing incorrectly on the direction that he wanted to do a drop. Both of these medevacs looks like it's going to go down. Oh, was that other one? I bet he's wishing that he has those boosters in Heart of the Swarm right now. That is too bad, but now he's got to worry about this medevac actually deciding to drop off all of his units rather than actually travel with them in tow. But remember, there was a static 3 photon cannons back at home, probably going to be enough to deal with this single cluster of Marines and Marauders, especially since they've already stemmed themselves. Probably that first photon cannon is going to go down, but nothing else. And 3 Colossus, lots of High Templars and Zealots. This is an incredibly intimidating force, especially when compared to the fact that it's 200 over 86. High Templar doing not only the feedback, but also the storm. Oh, poor Turri tapping out. That was all he had. And you know, it really was. I mean, check out that the economic tab, 84 over 1600 for Dosenfett. Fantastic play. Turri, oh my goodness, Turri. I am so sorry. You did so well. That opening with the Marauder slow, fantastically intimidating for Protoss. It takes them by surprise. It does a lot of damage, and you did a lot of damage. You knew exactly when to pull back from that early aggression, which is so hard, and it's so hard to do well. You did it perfectly. What you didn't do perfectly is capitalize on the strengths of bio. You've got to do drops. You've got to be more aggressive once you win a fight. If you win a fight, you win something. You've got to reward yourself with something. Is it going to be aggressive at the front base? Is it going to be a drop? Is it going to be taking another expo for yourself? You got to choose something, and you've got to do it. You can't go back and just sit on 3 bases, because this is what happens. This is what happens if you allow Protoss to macro. They will macro, and they will win every time, because Terran can't beat Protoss in macro. It just, you know, you've got to be good. You got to be better. I don't know. Dosenfett, you did a great job. Congratulations. You did a great job too, because you watched one of my replays. If you have a game you want me to cast, you could PM me here or on Reddit. One way or another, I will see you guys later. I am Big and Scary.